Chicago Bulls finished their regular season with a loss against the New York Knicks. We'll talk about it, break it all down. My brain. The Chicago Bulls finished their regular season with a loss against the New York Knicks. What is Billy Donovan's biggest blind spot heading into the postseason that keeps affecting the Chicago Bulls? And will the Chicago Bulls continue to their winning ways in the play-in? We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm the host here, Haize. Pat is out for tonight. He's handling some business, but you guys can follow me at CEO Haize. I am host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central. And let's go ahead and get into the topics for today. So the Bulls finished their regular season off with a loss against the New York Knicks. And this is a game where the Bulls had some fight in. I don't want to, it sucks that the Bulls lost and that they couldn't get a win to end the season. They finished now the season with one less win than what they did last year. But this was a fun game to watch. It was a very competitive game, basically from start to finish. Kobe White went on a really good streak there towards the in the fourth quarter. But when you look at the performances from the Bulls in this game, DeMar DeRozan with 30 points, Nikola Vucevic with 29 points, and Kobe White with 26 points to lead the team in scoring. Those are the three players. You also get 11 points from Javonte Green and 15 points from Alex Caruso. But this was a game where the Bulls had a lead in the fourth quarter of this game. The Bulls actually led throughout most of the fourth quarter. The Bulls had the lead for 9 minutes and 19 seconds in the fourth quarter of this game, and we're just not able to basically stop Jalen Brunson. That's really what it comes down to. The way that Jalen Brunson really put the New York Knicks on his shoulders and just could not be stopped. He only scores 9 points in the fourth quarter of this game. They end up pushing it into overtime. But when you look at Jalen Brunson, there were some possessions in this game where Alex Caruso was playing excellent defense against Jalen Brunson. And it just did not matter. It just did not matter at all. Jalen Brunson, despite the heavy defense on him, was able to finish and get whatever he wanted to get. And that's where it became difficult for the Chicago Bulls. And to Kobe White's credit, there was a period in there where Kobe White was going basically bucket for bucket with Jalen Brunson. Brunson had 9 points in that fourth quarter. Kobe White had 8 points, going 4-4 in the fourth quarter. Now, some things down the stretch of that fourth quarter, which we'll talk about when we get into Billy Donovan's blind spot, what I feel is his blind spot in the second segment. But overall, this was one of those games where, despite the Bulls losing, and they got outscored in the fourth quarter, 33-27, the way that the Bulls competed in this game throughout just left a lot to be desired. There was a shortened rotation in this game. The Bulls did get out-rebound in this game considerably. When it was all said and done, it was 44-53 in the rebounding battle. But part of that was Billy Donovan played a really small lineup. And part of that is because that, yes, Adama Sanogo coming off his 20-20 game, Billy Donovan basically only played the players that are going to be eligible for postseason play because Adama Sanogo's on a two-way contract. He's not able to play in the play-in game. And so because of that, it seemed like Billy Donovan was trying to really work out what his rotation was going to be in the play-in game. And really, to the credit of it, he did it as best he can with the lack of size. Still missing Ayo Dosunmu, still missing Andre Drummond in this game. So we had moments of Javonte Green playing center. We had Torrey Craig play some center in this game. And unfortunately, we just got outsized and outworked, which could be a preview of what's going to happen in Wednesday in that playing game, but we'll talk about that. But so you could tell that both teams were trying to do their own thing in this. Billy Donovan was trying to find the right combinations of players that he's going to play in that play-in. And then the New York Knicks were fighting to try to get this second seed in the Eastern Conference, which they do get with this win over the Chicago Bulls. And unfortunately, that's just what it is, man. It's the Bulls competed about as hard as you can ask them to compete in this game. And, competing doesn't mean that you're always going to be successful. Like I said, there are a lot of possessions where Alex Caruso was playing amazing defense on Jalen Brunson, and he just wasn't able to stop Brunson. And, when you look at some of the discrepancies in this game, which really hurt the Chicago Bulls, we did win the points in the paint battle 70-60 because the Bulls were attacking in the paint. And that's what I love. When the Bulls are attacking, especially since they don't always move without the ball enough, when they attack the rim, it's going to help them a whole heck of a lot. They also forced the New York Knicks into 21 turnovers in this game, which they were able to convert to 18 points. But you look at where some of the biggest discrepancies came at, right? So the Bulls bench points, we only scored 8 points off the bench. Again, that shortened rotation because Billy Donovan trying to figure out that play-in rotation there, whereas the New York Knicks had 24 points coming off the bench and then second chance points. That's where the Bulls really got out-rebounded bad. 32 second chance points for the New York Knicks to only 9 for the Chicago Bulls. So those are things that definitely hurt the chances of winning this game. It's unfortunate because they played a pretty damn good game, and I got to give them credit for that. They played a really good game in this, and it's just that the Bulls didn't have enough, man. And when you are having a short rotation against a good rebounding team like the New York Knicks, who did have Mitchell Robinson play only 7 minutes in this game. Isaiah Hartenstein was going beast mode in this game. But outside of just Jalen Brunson as well, you got to give some credit to Dante DiVincenzo as well in this game. He was 10 for 21 for 25 points, which really helped the Knicks. Only 5 of 14 from three-point range. Overall, the Bulls defended the three-point line pretty well in this game. 12 of 32 were the New York Knicks for 37%. So the Bulls defended the three-point line better than what we've seen in some recent games. But, it's unfortunate. The Bulls didn't have enough. And then one of the things that bothered me in this game, right, and like I said, we'll dive into this a little bit more in the second segment, was just kind of the decision-making by coaching down the stretch, man. Some of the decisions coaching-wise just did not put the players in the right position. And when you're already working with a shortened rotation because you're not going to play Adama Sanogo, which – I get it. The Bulls weren't really competing for anything. Their seeding wouldn't have changed anything like that. I do think that it was really important to Billy Donovan, not trying to excuse it, but to Billy Donovan to use these minutes to find the best combination of players for their playing game on Wednesday. But, when you're getting out rebounded to the level that the Bulls were, if you're trying to win this game, to me, put Adama out there for 5-8 minutes, something in a stretch. But, for all intents and purposes, I think Adama's season's done. You're not going to see Henry Drell. You may not even see Underlap Batim in the play-in at all either. So, we'll see what happens with that one. Hope Billy Donovan kind of opens that up a little bit more. So, we'll see there. But, for a season where the Chicago Bulls had as many injuries as what they did, for them to finish the season with only one less win than what they did last year. Keep in mind, the Bulls' record since that 4-15 start was basically the pace of a 45-win team. Now, they would have still been in the play-in, right? You look at the Miami Heat. They're a 46-win team. They're still in the play-in. So, those are how things shook out. But, the season for the Chicago Bulls had a lot of ups, had a lot of downs. Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu were definitely ups for this Bulls season as well. The injuries to Zach LaVine, injuries to Patrick Williams, they suck. And, I know Billy Donovan made it a point to talk about the $70 million on the bench for the Chicago Bulls. Even more than that now, when you look at Ayo Dosunmu, when you look at Andre Drummond, those guys being out is a major loss for the Chicago Bulls, man. And so we got about $95 million on the bench. And that's just tough for most teams to overcome. And not to have any excuses, we still have things that we need to work on. The fact that we don't move without the ball, the fact that, Billy Donovan, I really need to see him stop being so DeMar DeRozan reliant when it comes down to tough games. And, that those things could possibly help the Bulls. And, ultimately where the Bulls have finished this season, I just really hope personally as a Bulls fan that the front office doesn't look at this and say, see, we told you we're being competitive. We could have had 45 wins. And yeah, I guess that remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. But I want to talk about in the next segment, one of the blind spots that I feel like Billy Donovan has, especially with inbound play calls, and then the reliance to go to DeMar DeRozan, even though everybody knows that that's exactly what the Bulls are going to do. But before we get into that, I got to talk to you guys about a couple of our sponsors. And one of those sponsors is Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even easier, faster, and faster. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, which is always good. If you guys have bought a lot of tickets to sporting events, you know how tough it is to get tickets sometimes, especially if you're trying to get those last-minute tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute sports, concerts, comedy theater, etc. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And then I also got to talk to you guys about one of our new sponsors here over on Locked On, and that is Monopoly Go. I've been told I'm a competitive person. You guys already know that. Okay, well, I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I could charge them rent on my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people around the world in time tournaments to earn huge awards. So get in on the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or the Google Play Store. All right, y'all. With that said, man, like I've been talking about, there is a blind spot that Billy Donovan has to me on this roster. And it's one that I know most Bulls fans see as well. And it's going to be one that I think is going to continue to hurt this team. And that's, I'm not even going to go right to him using DeMar DeRozan where, Kobe was hot in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about that. But it's the lack of inbound play calls. This team has got to be one of the worst, god-awful teams when it comes to inbound play calls in clutch time. As good as the Bulls have been in clutch time this season, right? Playing over half their games have been clutch games this season. The Bulls statistically are one of the best clutch teams in the NBA this season. But when you don't know how to draw up a simple inbounds play call, it's evident, man. And that's something that you just always see from Billy Donovan. It's been there in OKC. It's been there here in Chicago. And it's something that as you go forth, and now the Bulls are looking to play a play-in matchup against a team in the Atlanta Hawks that they've played tightly all this season. It's something that just is such a glaring weakness of Billy Donovan's coaching philosophy that it's ridiculous. And then on top of that, right, on top of already not being able to draw up a creative inbounds play in the last seconds of games, on top of that, Billy Donovan keeps going to DeMar DeRozan. I don't know what else? I get it. Kobe White has been streaky. Kobe White has had an inconsistent season. I don't think anybody is going to say anything otherwise when it comes to Kobe White's season. He's coming out of a slump, all that type of thing. But I just talked about the fourth quarter that Kobe White had. In the fourth quarter of this game, Kobe White was 4 for 4. He played 11 minutes in the fourth quarter. He had 8 points, 2 assists in this game. When you look at DeMar DeRozan's fourth quarter, he was 3 of 6, not terrible with 6 points. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it was god awful to where DeMar DeRozan was shooting incorrectly. But there was not a single soul in Madison Square Garden that did not understand that the ball was going to DeMar DeRozan. And DeMar, 2 opportunities. Let's talk about it. Not only in the overtime period was it a inbounds play called for DeMar DeRozan, but at the end of regulation, the Bulls' last possession in regulation in this game, DeMar DeRozan took one of the most god-awful shots that I've ever seen in my life. And I just don't understand what it will take for Billy Donovan to start trusting other players. You have to. When everybody in the NBA knows, and to DeMar DeRozan's credit, he's the best fourth quarter player in the game of basketball this year. Per statistics, he's probably going to win the Clutch Player of the Year award. It's probably deserved. Do not get me wrong on any of that. But still, even with all that said, as a head coach in the NBA, that you have young, emerging players, what else do you have to do? What else do they have to do to try to earn your trust to either sink or swim? And that is also one of Billy Donovan's biggest weak spots, period, is that he does not understand, and it doesn't seem like he even cares, that he does not care about putting the ball and giving other players opportunities to try to grow their game. As far as in clutch time specifically is what I'm talking about here. And as long as that continues, man, I don't know if I can trust Billy Donovan to do anything creative. Like, as a player, imagine that. Imagine that is on your job. You are good. You spend the whole year doing something good, and they just don't want to allow you even a chance or opportunity to sink or swim. That's something that just, it continues to hurt this team. And it's like Billy Donovan just doesn't care, man. And it's just going to be something, as long as it's going to be so stagnant, I just don't know how the Bulls are going to overcome it, because every single person in that arena knew who the ball was going to. Everybody. And Billy Donovan just looks at that and says, hey, I know you know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Maybe I can confuse you. That's problematic. And as long as that continues, man, yeah. And that's why, when people say things like DeMar, not coming back to the Bulls, I've said it many times. I've said it here. I've said it over on Chicago Bulls Central. DeMar DeRozan has played well enough to earn another contract. That's not up to debate. He has his flaws defensively, all those type of things, but he's earned another contract. That doesn't mean that the Chicago Bulls should necessarily give it to him. And I do think that if DeMar leaves, I'm not saying that they should jettison him off for this, but if DeMar DeRozan were to leave the Chicago Bulls, that would force Billy Donovan to use other players. That would also force these young players to show, hey, our development is real. We can be trusted. And if it doesn't happen, then you do have a top 10 protected pick to the San Antonio Spurs in 2025 that then you may look to keep. DeMar artificially inflates the Bulls' win total by at least 5 to 6 wins a season. And for something that's not sustainable, right? You have to look at that and wonder, okay, what can you do? And I just don't know if I trust it, bro. I don't know if I trust it, man. It's very, very, very frustrating. And at the end of the day, until Billy Donovan decides to grow a pair and not just use his safety net, right? That's what DeMar DeRozan is. And a safety net can be great. Do not get me wrong. A safety net can be great, but you got to recognize that it's a safety net. And Billy Donovan doesn't have the recognition to realize that, in my opinion. DeMar's great for what you want him to do. DeMar is great. I can't take it away from DeMar. He's earned, like I said, he's earned another contract. But you have to look at the future of your franchise. And at some point, especially depending on what the money, depending on what the years, whatever it is, that's a situation and conversation I'm glad I'm not the one that has to have. And it's not just, and again, also the lack of ball movement, man. The fact that the Bulls don't move without the ball really at all. There are 3 Bulls players that move without the ball consistently. 2 consistently. Alex Caruso and Javonte Green. Ayo will do it sometimes. We miss Ayo a lot, especially in fast break, because the Bulls' fast break recognition is also god-awful if Ayo Dosunmu's not out there on the court. But outside of those things, man, it's just so many questions. It's mad questionable. And hopefully, they look to fix that, solve that. It's not going to happen just from now to the playing game. But that's something that I really hope that this coaching staff looks at this offseason, because when you don't move without the ball, you make every single shot on offense tougher. And it's not just the Bulls. I know Pat has this thing where he keeps talking about the Bulls 3-point shot attempts. But to me, if you just shoot more 3-point attempts and you're not moving without the ball, it's going to be a more difficult attempt. Everything gets easier when you move without the ball. So we got to figure something out. We got to get more creative offensively, because while the Bulls offense is stagnant as hell, do not get me wrong on that one. It's not going to get any better if you don't move without the ball. Just adding in moving without the ball, it literally makes your offense so much more potent just by the nature of doing that alone. But you don't need me sitting here in the studio in my house to tell any professional coach that, or at least you shouldn't. But hey, we'll see what happens with that. But next up, we're going to talk about the Bulls playing game coming up Wednesday against the Atlanta Hawks. Just some of my expectations. Want to hear from you guys on that one too. I'm going to go to some of the comments on that. But before we get into that, though, I do have to talk to you guys about another one of our sponsors, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You pick more than or less than 2 or more player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. March is over, but the biggest moments in college basketball tip off the month of April, which that is over with now as well. Men's, women's, and college basketball is shut down, but you can get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. As you and the world's best players take the game and new level during basketball's postseason, you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, and college basketball when it does come back. Entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. So download the Prize Pick app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Bulls fans. So despite the Bulls' up and down nature of their season, the Bulls have earned a chance to maybe make it into the playoffs. They have to do so via going through the play-in tournament. Their first matchup, at least, will be Wednesday night against the Atlanta Hawks. Now, this is a team that we do have a 2-1 record against so far, or in regular season's over, in the regular season. So the Bulls have had success against the Atlanta Hawks. Also, we do have the player that's looked at as Trae Young's pappy, and that's Ayo Dosunmu, but we aren't sure if Ayo is going to be able to play in this game yet or not, which raises its own questions there. And so I'm going to go to this question here from Zachary P. He says, Haize, do you think we will get Ayo or Drummond back for the play-in on Wednesday? That is a great question, and let me tell you why. Because they're important to it, right? Especially when you saw the Bulls today play small, try to play Javonte Green at center, which just is not going to work. But I think that the prognosis for Ayo Dosunmu was a little bit more promising. Considering that Andre Drummond has a high-grade ankle sprain, players have missed almost a month with that same injury. So personally, now I'm not reporting on this. This could change tomorrow. I don't know. I do not expect Andre Drummond to be available for the play-in tournament. Now, if the Bulls make it out that play-in tournament and into the first round of the playoffs, that could very well change. But per what we're hearing right now, I do not expect at all Andre Drummond to be available on Wednesday, especially against the Atlanta Hawks. Now, Ayo Dosunmu was a little bit different. That thigh contusion for Ayo Dosunmu, I think a lot of it comes down to pain management. And I think that's why you saw the Bulls let him sit out as long as they did to kind of manage that pain and hope that he's going to be back kind of more healthy by that play-in tournament. We'll see, man. I don't know if that's going to happen for sure. I mean, we got 2 days off before we play our playing game. So that's some time to try to get Ayo Dosunmu back out there. But I do think that there is a high probability right now that we go into Wednesday's playing game against the Atlanta Hawks without both Ayo Dosunmu and Andre Drummond. And that is going to be a scary thing. Not that the Atlanta Hawks are this huge team up front at the center position, but just because regardless of whoever the team is, Andre Drummond brings so much as far as extra possessions for the Chicago Bulls. He's a much better pick and roll defender. So without having him out there, it can just get tougher for the Bulls. It makes life harder on the Chicago Bulls. That's why you did see us give up so many second chance points today. So I do think that is something you need to look out for. And without having Io, I think that Io's is such a big part for the Bulls because he's our best player and decision maker in the fast break. I talked about a little bit in the last segment how the Bulls have some of the worst fast break recognition as a team I've ever seen. And that's not hyperbole. That's God's honest truth. And because of that, I think not having Io out there, even, with his shooting that he added this season definitely helps. But having Io in fast breaks kind of to lead that fast break and missing that, I think is something that's huge for the Bulls as well. And I'm not saying that the Bulls still can't win this game against the Atlanta Hawks. This is a team that we match up well against. But it definitely gets a little bit harder without those two players out there. Now, of course, having Javonte Green back, the energy that he brings, him and Alex Caruso going back to the number of deflections they get, the extra possessions and fast break opportunities that they create for the Bulls are going to be huge in that matchup against the Hawks. And I think bringing Trae Young back, I honestly think that makes the team less scary to me, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Kind of makes them a little bit more susceptible to be attacked in the pick and roll and out on the perimeter. But the Bulls are going to have to be locked in, man. And not that you're going to change very much from the regular season to one playing game, but the Bulls are going to have to discover that edge that they played with a little bit in this game, man. And if they don't do that, if the Bulls come into this game against the Hawks lacking in any shape, form, or fashion defensively, it can get ugly for the Chicago Bulls, and it can definitely get away from them. And if you allow the Atlanta Hawks to get hot from three-point range, which they have done several times against the Bulls, you're going to have to hope that Kobe, one of the best things about, the last couple of games is Kobe seems like he's back in rhythm. And that's a really good thing for the Bulls and their playing hopes is that Kobe White is back in rhythm. Him, DeMar, and Vooch have been playing really good over the last 2 or 3 games as well. So, if they can peak at the right time, play together at the right time, the Bulls can get a win against the Hawks. They would face the winner between the 76ers and the Heat. And so we'll see how that goes as well. But the Bulls, I feel confident with them against the Hawks if they come in with the right mentality. If they don't, the Bulls can lose to anybody any given night. So, we'll see what that happens. Me and Pat will talk about it at the lead up to that playing game. Hopefully things keep working out for the Chicago Bulls, man. But keep letting us know how you guys feel about everything. Make sure you guys keep, supporting the channel. Leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, I guess I should say Spotify. Even if you're on the YouTube side, go and just pull up the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave a review. Definitely help the show grow. But that's my time for today, guys. Me and Pat will be back together tomorrow, so look out for that. You guys can follow me by choice at CEO Haize. You can follow us collectively at Locked On Bulls. You can also follow Pat at Pat the Designer. You guys already know that. But that is my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are also supporting Locked On Bulls. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.